Welcome to the Marketing Spotlight, where we share the career journeys of Michigan State University marketing alumni. I'm your host, Katie Sadler, and today with us we have Matt Sylvester. Matt graduated from MSU in 2015 with a major in marketing and a double minor in international business and French. Matt is currently a product marketing manager at Ford Motor Company, working on the Lincoln brand. Matt, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Marketing Spotlight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're really excited to talk to you today. Matt, can you just start us out with giving us a quick overview of your career since you graduated from MSU?
Sure thing. Before I get started, just want to say that everything we talk about here today is really just my opinion, not necessarily the opinion of Ford Motor Company, but I'm really excited to be here and talk with you all today. So I was hired in to Ford Motor Company right out of college into a program called the Marketing FCG program, or Marketing Ford College Graduate Program. And Ford has a number of these FCG programs all across the company. Really, they're set up to give new hires, new marketers in my case, a really great foundation by the way of experience in a few different departments. I was hired in as the assistant brand manager on the Ford Focus and got to launch the Focus RS, which was a high performance variant of the Focus. That was a really fun and exciting experience as my first job out of college. And then from there, the rotational program took me to our field organization out in Boston, where I got to spend a couple of years working directly with our dealer body in New England. And that was really an amazing experience. I think that job might be one of the best you could have at Ford. You set your own schedule and you work directly with the dealers. And I learned so much. It was kind of one of those jobs that was a little bit unexpected for me, but it was certainly something that I have come to realize is a really important job and important experience to have as a marketer at Ford. From there, I came back to Dearborn and I worked on the launch of the all-new Ford Bronco, which was a really exciting launch for the company and sort of a dream job for me in a lot of ways. It's a product in Ford's portfolio that I think I connect with more than any other on a personal level. I love being outdoors. I love going off-roading. And so to be part of that team on such a major launch was really very exciting and an honor. And now I work on the Lincoln brand as a product marketing manager, working with the Lincoln of China team on our next generation Aviator and next generation Navigator.
Matt, you have been very busy since graduating from college with all sorts of different roles in different areas of marketing, it sounds like. I want to click into a couple of those, but can you tell us more about what it means to be a product marketing manager?
First of all, let me explain at a very high level how you can think of our marketing department at Ford. We've got a group that we call Customer Knowledge and Strategy, and that team does a lot of the upfront customer research and for vehicles that aren't going to be on the road for another 6 years or more even. So that's customer knowledge and strategy. Then we have another group called consumer marketing, or we sometimes call them brand management. And they work on vehicles that are on the road today. They sort of work in the months leading up to a product reveal, and then once the vehicles are on the road. And product marketing sits right in the middle. So after we've done our upfront customer research, we sort of defined what this customer profile is going to be and some of the high level features of the product. Then we actually have a formal product development process at Ford where we have a number of official milestones. And as a product marketing manager, you are the voice of that customer through the entire product development process. So I work on vehicles that are a few years out, 3 to 4 years out from being on the road, and you are the critical voice of the customer, making sure that what we ultimately bring to market is something that our customers will want.
So Matt, can you tell me a little bit more about how a role like a product marketing role is different maybe than what you would have expected a marketing role to have been like in college? Because I think what we're finding throughout all of the different podcasts that we've done is Marketing can look like a lot of different things in the careers that our alumni have taken. And a lot of times that's different than what our alumni expected those careers to look like while they were a student at MSU. So what's surprising to you about being a product marketing manager?
Well, for me, I didn't even know that this sort of role existed when I was a student. I really was drawn into marketing from a customer standpoint and was really interested in being a brand manager and managing the day-to-day operations of that brand. And I was really lucky to be able to get a taste of that in my first few roles at Ford. And this product marketing role is really for Ford, it is the brand manager for a product that it hasn't hit the road yet. And it's similar to what I expected in a lot of ways. But I think one of the things that's really different is I, on a day-to-day basis, spend most of my time talking to our engineering colleagues who are actually putting together, building and designing the vehicle. And it's my responsibility to sit in with those engineers and be the voice of the customer. And that can be tricky sometimes because I'm not an engineer. I don't know the first thing about being an engineer, but I've learned a lot from these engineers, and we talk all the time about what it takes to deliver a product that our customers will buy. And we try to get our engineering team have a really firm grasp on who our target customer is. But nonetheless, it's important that effectively that customer is in there in that product development process, making sure that what we ultimately deliver to our dealers is something that will be really compelling and our customers will want to buy.
It sounds like a really unique role and one that has a lot of forward-looking strategy. So I'm sure that there's plenty that you can't tell us about what you do on your day-to-day. But for the last role that you had when you were working on the Bronco launch, can you tell us what it was like to work for a major car company that's launching a brand new product line that they haven't had in the market before?
There was a tremendous amount of responsibility that the entire team on Bronco felt bringing back the Bronco nameplate, the Bronco brand. It really was something incredible. What I didn't realize was basically from the day that we discontinued Bronco about 25 years ago in the mid 90s, there was a group of people in Ford that were just diehard Bronco fans. They call themselves the Bronco Underground. And they had been silently working nights and weekends to bring Bronco back. It took 25 years for a lot of different reasons to bring it back, but because of that and because of the tremendous passion that our classic Bronco owners have, we knew we had to get it right. And so we spent a lot of time working on the strategy. We spent a lot of time really understanding who that customer is. We talked to countless classic Bronco owners about what it means to them to be a Bronco owner and what would be critical in a new Bronco for it to really hold that name and be the continuation of something that was truly iconic from the mid to late 60s all the way to the mid 90s, and then took a hiatus for 20 some odd years. It was really exciting. There was a lot of responsibility doing that, and we thought we had a really great plan together, and then the world had other plans for us. And literally days before we were going to start to reveal the brand and reveal the products, we had a global pandemic introduced into the mix. And all of that hard work that we had done for years, it wasn't quite thrown out the window, but pretty darn close. And we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to reveal the brand, how to reveal the products in a way that was true to what the brand stands for, but yet was done in a way that was safe given the pandemic around the world.
That's really interesting how that timing shaped up. And I think that's one of our largest challenge as marketers is adapting as culture changes, as the environment changes, and figuring out how we can still bring to life our products and our brands in the best ways possible, but with the correct lens based on what's happening in the world. So what would you say you learned about, I guess, adaptability and being agile through that experience?
Well, I think for us on the Bronco team, we had so much research up front and a really great understanding of our customer. And I think that's where it all starts for us. And while it was tricky to adapt, because we had such a deep understanding of our Bronco customer, we felt like we had a deep understanding of what the brand meant. it was easy in a lot of ways to just pivot to, okay, how would we do this if we couldn't be in person anymore? And that meant partnering with some really awesome personalities who spend their lives in the outdoors and doing it in a virtual way. It worked out really well for us. But I think it all started for us with that upfront work of really understanding who that customer was, what the brand was going to stand for. And it was a lot of meticulous, time-consuming work. It took years, but it paid off in a big way for us, because when it came time to pivot, which again was unexpected, we sort of knew just how we had to do it.
That makes a lot of sense, Matt. And I think all those insights that go into a product launch definitely are your guiding light and your North Star for what you need to keep focusing on. So love to hear how you guys kind of brought that in through the whole product launch. What would you say has been the highlight of your career and all the different roles that you've held at Ford?
I just feel so fortunate to have had so many different opportunities, such a wide range of opportunities. In my first job, I was working on a vehicle that was managed through our Ford Performance Group, the Focus RS. And I got to go learn how to drive on a racetrack. I learned how to drive a manual transmission. I didn't know how to do that. I was incredible. Not just to learn how to drive a manual, but to do it on a racetrack and do it in a Focus RS and then go do it in a Mustang. And then because I had made contacts with these folks in Ford Performance, and I got to go out and drive Raptors in the off-road. Like just things that I would have never thought possible. And then I went out and experienced a whole new city out in Boston. Never really been to Boston, and I didn't know a soul in the city, but went out and got to work with our fabulous dealers out in New England. Then got to launch one of the most iconic brands in Ford's history, in Bronco. And now I'm flexing a new muscle, which is being able to use my international business minor that I got some experience with our China team in Lincoln. It's hard to put a pin on exactly what my number one highlight is, but I really just feel fortunate to have had so many really awesome, really fun opportunities so early in my career too.
Absolutely. I can't imagine your first job out of college being much cooler than doing all of the racetrack testing and all of the off-roading that you got to do. So I think that you've definitely had a very exciting career so far at Ford, and that's awesome. Matt, you also referenced your international business minor that you got at MSU. What do you think were some of the key experiences that you had in college that prepared you for your career?
First of all, I studied abroad in college, which as a student, if you are able to do that, I would highly recommend it. I didn't study abroad in China, and then my first international role happens to be working with our China team. But I think no matter where you go, it gives you a new and unique perspective of a different part of the world that, in a lot of cases, you just don't get. You can't get unless you actually go there. So I would say that definitely prepared me. But I think that some of the classes and some of the learnings you have if you study international business on different cultures and how being accepting of different cultures, you're in those classes and you don't always appreciate the value of those lessons. Having now worked for several months with a team that's halfway across the world, it really has become clear that it's so important. And for Ford, our China market it's growing really fast. It's really becoming very important, particularly for the Lincoln brand. It all has really prepared me quite well. I still have a lot to learn. I'm still working with a team in China, and I've never even been to China. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have that opportunity. And if you can get out and study abroad and at least take some classes that expose you to what it means to be accepting and interact with different cultures, will certainly prepare you. I think no matter what sort of role in marketing you have, chances are you're going to get some exposure to some markets around the world.
Matt, you're just bridging me so well into my next question. So thank you for doing this on the other end of the line. So you're talking about studying abroad and international experience, and that being something that you would advise students to do at State if they can. What would be other advice that you wish you had while you were a student at MSU?
For me, I think one of the things that you could do, especially for underclassmen, I would say, and this is something that I didn't do, I wish I had, is get out and get to some networking events, get to the career gallery, even if you're not ready for an internship, and I know they can be hard to come by as an underclassman, but there's such tremendous value in getting out and interacting with those those recruiters. First of all, you'll be less nervous when it does come time your junior and senior year to start looking for internships and full-time positions. But also, if you're really passionate about working for Ford or working in the automotive industry or any industry for that matter, go meet those recruiters. Start forging a relationship with them as early as possible. A lot of times, those companies send the same recruiters to campus every year. So if you can start to get to know them and keep in touch with them, you've already got your foot in the door once you're an upperclassman and ready for a full-time position. So I got really lucky. I hadn't gone to a career gallery. I hadn't spoken with recruiters at Ford until I went my junior year and applied for an internship. It's certainly, I would say, a little bit easier if you can start to have those relationships, forge those relationships a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice for students. And like with that, being persistent and knowing what you want and going after it with everything that you have. So thank you for sharing that. Matt, I do have one last question for you today. So what would be one thing that you learned in your career that you didn't learn while you were at MSU that you'd like to share with our marketing students?
When I was at Michigan State, I really shied away from a lot of the sales classes that are offered. I felt like sales wasn't for me and it was going to be too much pressure, too high stakes. And I really wanted to just focus on the pure marketing. And turns out I land my second job at Ford is in our sales organization, effectively selling cars to car dealerships. It didn't get more high stakes than that. So I really got to learn a bit more about the industry from a sales perspective, which was so critical. And I think for Ford, really helped set me up with a better understanding of the industry and of the business so that I could ultimately have an even more successful career at Ford. So I would say sales for sure. I purposely shied away from it, but then in a really meaningful way, learned it very, very quickly in that sales position.
Awesome, Matt. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated having you on the Marketing Spotlight.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for our listeners who are interested in connecting with Matt, you can find him on LinkedIn. Make sure you also check out our other episodes of the Marketing Spotlight to see where MSU marketing grads are today. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, or YouTube. We'll see you next time.